Hi, everybody. These are the grammar pages on pages 28 and 29. We're using the comparative and superlative adjectives and adverbs. Comparative adjectives are used to compare things. We add ER when we're comparing two things for most one-syllable adjectives and adverbs. We add EST to compare more than two things, and we sometimes call that the superlative. It is better than everything else. So, for instance, my turtle is smaller than my gerbil. We're using the word smaller because we're comparing turtle and gerbil. Then my fish is the smallest of all the fish, is what you're not saying there. My fish is the smallest of all. There we're using EST. We're not just comparing two things, comparing my fish to all the fish. When you have adverbs, it works the same way. Buddy runs faster than Rusty. We're comparing Buddy and Rusty. The black dog runs the fastest. We are saying out of all of these that we are looking at right now, the black dog runs the fastest of all. May not be the fastest of every dog in the whole world, but of the ones we're looking at, more than two, this dog is the fastest. So two things we're using ER, more than two things we're using EST. What they're asking us then to do in this first section, we're going to underline the adjective or adverb, and then we're going to circle whether it compares two things or more than two things. And one way we can do that is by looking to see if it's ER or EST. So Claire arrived sooner than Ben. So we've got that ER, so this is our word right here. That's our adverb. Claire arrived sooner than Ben. It's telling about when she arrived. It's also using that ER. So we are saying that we are comparing two things, Claire and Ben. So we're going to circle two. Let's look at number two. She worked harder than I did. We're comparing she and I. She worked harder. It's telling how she worked. She worked harder than I did. We're comparing again. We're comparing two things, Claire and I. Claire is the nicest person I know. Nicest. It is telling about Claire. Claire is the nicest person I know. And again, it's using that EST. It is telling us that out of all the people that I know, Claire is the nicest. She's not just nicer than Ben or nicer than I am. She's the nicest person that I know. That's more than two. If you need to pause to catch up, go ahead, because I'm going to clear this, and then I'm going to go down to the next part. Here we are completing each sentence. So on the line, we are going to write the correct comparative adjective or adverb from the parentheses words. So number 4 says, the wind is stronger or strongest today than yesterday. So we're describing the wind and we're comparing today and yesterday. Today's wind, yesterday's wind. We're comparing only two things. So we are going to write stronger. S-T-R-O-N-G-E-R. Stronger. I'm afraid I don't quite fit in the space they gave me. The wind is stronger today than yesterday. Number 5, my kite flew higher, highest than Sam's kite. So we're describing how it flew. Did it fly higher or highest? What are we comparing here? We are comparing my kite to Sam's kite. That's two things. So again, we're going to use ER. H-I, ooh, whoa, ER. Let's move that over. My kite flew higher than Sam's kite. If you need to pause, go ahead because I'm going to clear. And move to the second page. So now we're going to be on page 29, continuing to work with comparative adjectives and adverbs. We are going to be looking at another way that we do this. If an adjective or adverb has more than one syllable and does not end in Y, we are adding more or most in front of it. So when there's a lot of syllables and then we want to add another syllables, it sometimes makes the word awkward. So instead of making it peacefuler, we add the word more in front. Our porch is more peaceful than the living room because it's already a longer word. And it's just better to add another word rather than to add another syllable to the end. So my room is the most peaceful place of all is the superlative. Of all the places, mine is the most. And then more is sort of like the ER. Our porch is more peaceful than the living room. We're comparing two places, the porch and the living room. With the adverbs, Ava rides more carefully than Oliver. We're comparing Ava and Oliver. So we have carefully, and we're adding in the word more because we're comparing two things. Ava rides more carefully. Declan rides most carefully of all. So when we're comparing more than two, we're using the word most. So most is like EST, more is like ER. So let's look at what they're asking us to do on this page. Underline the words that compare things in the sentences. Then circle whether the words compare to or more than two things. So let's start with number 1. Rita dances more gracefully than I do. So our words that we're using to compare here, more and gracefully. More gracefully than I do. So we're comparing Rita and I, and they use that word more. That means we are only comparing two things. Number 2, Bia is the most beautiful dancer in the class. She is the most beautiful dancer. Most beautiful. Those are the words that are describing her. And it says she is the most beautiful dancer in the class. We are not comparing Bia to one other person. We are comparing Bia to everyone in the class. So here we're looking at more than two. Let's keep going. Number 3, Mrs. Kent is the most skillful dance teacher of all. There's our word most to clue us in. The most skillful. What kind of a dance teacher is she? She's a skillful dance teacher, but not just skillful. She is the most skillful of all. So we are again more than 2. Most tells us that, and all tells us that. Finally, on number 4, of all our neighbors, Mr. Bruno holds cookouts most often. Do you see more or most in there? Of all our neighbors, Mr. Bruno holds cookouts most often. So again, we're using the word most, and they're saying of all. We are comparing more than 2. Good job, everybody. Pause if you need to catch up. I'll see you next time.